It was a gloomy place, a prison for particularly dangerous criminals. In cell number 210 sat a 40-year-old man. Truth be told, he didn't belong here. Jim had been in this godforsaken place for 5 years for a murder he didn't commit. Jim sat on the bed, leaning against the stone wall, listening to what was happening in the corridors. He could distinguish the quiet steps of the guard. Jim got up and approached the small grill, peering outside. As the guard passed by his cell, he swore loudly. It seemed he had stepped on something. Jim's gaze fell to the floor. There was blood, a lot of blood. At the guard's feet lay a man in an identical uniform. His skull was shattered, and his open eyes stared straight at Jim, panic mixed with horror evident in them. An hour later, the lifeless body was removed from the corridor, and Jim headed back to bed. "Hey, neighbor," Jim heard. A man in his 60s was looking at him from the neighboring cell. "What?" Jim asked. "Did you see that?" Every year around this time, there are many murders. They say that during the full moon, when the veil between the world of the living and the world of the dead is weak, the spirits of people who were once murdered break through here and seek revenge on the killers. "Are you crazy?" Jim tried to hide his excitement, but he couldn't. "I see you believe me, and trust me, this is not the first death." Jim got tired of his neighbor's gossip and went to sleep. It was cold at night, and Jim got up to get a blanket. Suddenly, he heard a sound in the corridor. Jim looked out and saw a silhouette nearby emitting white light. Its hands held a large, thick chain, and to Jim's horror, at the other end of the chain hung a limp body. Suddenly, the silhouette turned towards Jim and looked him straight in the eyes. A chill ran down Jim's spine, his palms sweated, and his hair seemed to stand on end. Jim ran deep into the cell and hid on the bed. He heard the clink of the falling chain. A few seconds later, he felt a sudden chill in the cell. Jim peeked out from under the blanket and saw the ghost's face right in front of him. It looked at him with its bloodshot eyes, its breath smelling of decay. The ghost reached out to Jim, but suddenly pulled back its hand and, casting a glance at Jim filled with despair and pain, disappeared through the cell wall. The next morning at lunch, Jim learned that 12 people had been killed during the night, and they all died just as they had once killed their victims. Every night, Jim saw ghosts walking down the corridor. Every night, he heard the dying screams of those who paid for their crimes. Tonight, Jim's neighbor was killed. They found him strangled in his own cell. Jim didn't pity his neighbor. He deserved death. The murders continued for a week. During this time, half of the cells were emptied, and it was decided to close the prison. 10 years passed, and Jim was released. One day, he was walking down an alley when a crowd of drunken teenagers attacked him. Doctors couldn't save Jim. He had 24 stab wounds. Before dying, Jim swore to avenge the merciless killers. Since then, during the full moon, prisoners have seen a ghost with a knife through its heart, seeking revenge on those who caused much pain and suffering. I woke up in the middle of the night and couldn't fall asleep. Sometimes insomnia just hits me out of nowhere. The moon was shining so brightly outside that it illuminated the room. I turned over to the other side and my heart skipped a beat. I saw some sort of lump in the corner. At first, I thought it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, but it all seemed too real. I started feeling scared, but I decided not to freak out prematurely. Maybe it was just a chair or something else. But my horror peaked when I realized that the lump was breathing. I've never experienced anything like this before. I just silently stared at it, trying to find a logical explanation for what was happening. Suddenly, it slowly turned its head towards me. 2 bright yellow eyes gleamed in the darkness. That's all I remember. I was terrified. I covered my head with the blanket and started trembling. I couldn't even find the strength to scream. My tongue and throat felt numb. "Do you think I can't see?" A barely audible and disgustingly hoarse voice echoed. I couldn't tell if it was real or just in my head. I could only manage to breathe and tremble from the new wave of fear. It was just a meter away from me. I lay there for what felt like less than a minute, shaking more and more with fear. And finally, gathering my courage, I threw off the blanket and ran out of the room without even looking back at the corner. Imagine my neighbor's face when he saw me in the middle of the night, pale, wearing just a nightgown, standing at his doorstep, trying to explain something with a stutter and pointing at my open door. Thank God he understood without asking too many questions, put on his slippers, and went to my apartment. Of course, there was nothing there anymore. I just kept pointing at the corner where it had been before and said, with tears welling up in my eyes, it was here. I won't even mention all the stuttering in 30 different places. The neighbor inspected my room, then checked the kitchen and asked, "Did you open the window?" "Well, yeah, it's summer, it's hot," I replied. "Well, don't you dare open it again. Just use the vent." I ended up sleeping with a nightlight on for a long time after that. This day was very important for Sasha. On this day, she was moving. She was moving to the very old village of Koljuko. Sasha had lived with her parents in Chicago, but 4 days ago her great-grandmother Varvara died, whom she had never seen, and who left her small house to Alexandra, her unseen, only great-granddaughter. Sasha was 22 years old and still lived with her parents. It's time to build her personal life. Finally, Sasha arrived at her desired place. She stood in front of the small old house and began to think about how to carry those heavy boxes of belongings into her new home. She managed to bring them with the help of a man, but who will help her carry them in? Sasha grabbed a box and started dragging it along the ground. "Miss, can I help you?" Sasha heard a voice behind her. "Yes, if it's not too much trouble." The guy lifted the box and, carrying it easily, said, "Are you new here?" "Yes, I came from Chicago. My name is Sasha, and I'm Jack." While Jack helped Sasha carry the boxes, they already knew quite a bit about each other. When they carried the last box, Sasha thanked Jack and offered him some tea. "What? You haven't even brought out the teapot yet." Jack chuckled. Sasha also started laughing, losing her tension. "Well, I'm off. Bye, Sasha. Goodbye, thank you again." 5 hours had passed, and Sasha still had a whole box left to unpack. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door. "Sash, we didn't exchange phone numbers," Jack said right from the doorstep, hiding something behind his back. "I'm leaving tonight at 1. "Where to?" she asked, intrigued. "It doesn't matter. I've been staying with my grandmother here and, well, never mind." Sasha and Jack exchanged phone numbers. "Jen, let me take a photo for the caller ID." The camera clicked. "And also, I would like to give you my painting. I painted it myself." "Oh, Jack, thank you so much." Sasha was very pleased with such a gift. "Well, you unpack the painting there." "Of course, I'll hang it on this wall." "Well, you probably should go. It's already 9 in the evening." Yeah, you're right. "Well, I'll wait for you to visit, Sasha." In response, Sasha just smiled and nodded. When she closed the door, she decided that first she would put the remaining things in their places. And then the most interesting part, she would unpack the painting given by Jack. Half an hour later, Sasha had already put all the things from the last box in their places. She prepared for bed, took the painting in her hands, covered herself with half of the blanket, and began to unwrap the painting from the cardboard wrapping. In just 5 minutes, she admired the gift. The painting depicted a woman about 20 years old, with long black hair and a lush red dress. She was sitting on the hay near some shed. Sasha admired the gift for a long time and soon put it on the table. When she lay down in bed, she thought about the painting and remembered that her grandmother also had a shed she needed to clean it up too. Then she began to think about her grandmother, whom she couldn't even see at the funeral. In the morning, Sasha immediately went to the shed to take unnecessary things there and clean up. When she entered the shed, her eyes immediately caught sight of an almost broken box covered in cobwebs. Sasha put the things on the ground and approached the box. She began to remove the lid of the box from the cobwebs. Opening it, she immediately saw several books. She took one of them and blew on its surface, as it was dusty. Soon she realized that these were her great-grandmother's things. Sasha looked with curiosity at all the things, every little thing, until she noticed a red color in the dim shades. She started pulling out this thing with a smile and biting her lip when she saw the dress, and her smile faded. Sasha took the dress and quickly walked to the painting given by Jack. "Oh my God." With these words, Sasha realized that the woman in the painting was her grandmother Varvara. She carefully started examining the painting again, and in the bottom left corner, she saw a very small inscription. Varvara on the haystack. She Googled it through mobile internet and wrote down the title of this painting as she understood it. In the first search result, she saw Varvara on the haystack Wikipedia. She clicked it and was amazed by the answer she got. Varvara on the haystack is a painting created between 1887 and 1890. The painting was named after Varvara's unborn daughter. The woman depicted on the painting is her mother Yefrosinia. Information. There are legends that this painting takes the lives of those who own it. Its artist is unknown, as he was found dead in 1890 near this painting. Also, according to the legend, the last deceased person, already becoming a ghost, passes this painting on to another person. People believe that this painting depicts a witch carrying another witch. This information was enough for Sasha. Could it be that the painting depicts her great-great-grandmother Frosia? She took her phone. She wanted to call Jack and ask if he was playing a prank on her. After all, he couldn't have painted this painting. Then the phone rang. But someone knocked on the door, and she hung up for some reason. She was somehow scared to open the door. When she opened the door, the phone rang. Jack was standing behind the door with the phone to his ear. Seeing Sasha, he also hung up and said, "So are you coming to visit us? You promised." 2 to 3 days later on TV, it was reported. Recently in the village of Kuljuko, Sasha Sviridova was found nailed to the wall with nails. It's evident that the girl resisted. Her face was green, black eyes, and a carved mouth. It was something new, reminiscent of a witch's appearance. She was wearing a red dress, exactly the same as the girl depicted in the painting Varvara on the haystack, which disappeared back in 1890. Investigators also checked the deceased girl's phone. She had a missed call from a certain Jack, who was also found dead under unclear circumstances in 2011.